I used to think that the hardest part of a DIY project, or any project for that matter, was getting it right. Turns out, the hardest part is just to start. And once you start, you realize that mistakes aren't roadblocks. They're just part of the process. Let me show you what I mean. Hey everyone, welcome back. Thank you for all your support on our last project. Your comments and DMs across all platforms really means a lot. So, this is what we're working with. An empty wall, just waiting for something special. I probably spent at least 4 hours sketching out different panel designs, and that doesn't even count the endless scrolling on Pinterest. I wanted a pattern that felt simple, calming, and fit the overall vibe of our house. After all, this is the focal point of our living room. It needs to feel just right. Throughout this video, I'm gonna make a lot of mistakes, or you're gonna see a lot of mistakes. However, I like to think of them as lessons. And here's my first one. Don't overthink the perfect choice. Just commit and adjust as you go. So I spent 2 hours at the big box store debating between maple and walnut. Then I made a classic DIY mistake. I didn't measure first. I had no idea how much wood I actually needed, which means I also didn't realize how expensive hardwood gets. Thinking I'd save money, I bought a large maple board to rip down myself. Spoiler, that didn't work out as planned. Now, here's something I always get right. I trust my intuition. If something doesn't feel safe, I don't do it. And there was no way I was going to rip a 6-foot maple board on a table saw without the proper jigs. My skill level just isn't there yet. So, I pulled out the circular saw and set up a straight guide using some MDF boards left in the garage by the previous owner. And this is why I love DIYs. Problem solving, knowing my limits, and finding workarounds. I mean, look at this. This has to be safer than the table saw, right? Let's try not to lose any more limbs than I already have, if you know what I mean. And for the last piece, because it was too thin, I actually have to go back to the table saw. And as you can see, I am super careful with it, going very slow. While cutting, I also remember a quote from James Watkins. A river cuts through rock not because of its power, but because of its persistence. Cutting this wood on a table saw is like a river carving through rock. Each slow, steady pass may seem small, but over time, they create significant change. In the same way, small, consistent actions lead to monumental change. It's not about instant results, but the persistence that leads to shaping something lasting and meaningful. After hours of cutting and a lot of sawdust, I had 3 long maple strips. That's it. and I needed at least 20. At $60 for just a few pieces, this was turning into a $400 wall panel. Definitely not budget-friendly project, and more importantly, not spouse approved. So, back to the drawing board. This is where I reminded myself DIY is all about adapting. It should have been AIY, eh? Adapting it yourself. Okay, never mind. I remembered I had some leftover pine strips from a previous project, these plant hangers. Budget friendly, easy to work with, and definitely spouse approved. I picked up about 20 more pieces and got to work. Pre-drilled, countersunk, and almost had the panel finished. But then a very good friend pointed out another thing. Unless we were going for an industrial look, they would be an eyesore. He was absolutely right. The original idea was to create a peaceful, simple accent wall. So, I took them all down and started over again. By this point, I lost track of how many mistakes I'd made. I ended up adding shelves for plants, securing them with screws into the studs. But looking back, every single one pushed me to a better solution. Overthinking the wood choice, it led me to a budget-friendly alternative. Not measuring first, it taught me the importance of planning. Using the wrong screws, it made me rethink the design. So yeah, mistakes cost time, but they also move me forward. And honestly, the final result turned out better than my original idea. I hope you got some value from my mistakes, and maybe even the motivation to start that project you've been putting off. Because plans will only ever exist in a notebook unless you take action. If you found this video useful, share it with someone who needs a little push to start their own DIY journey. On that note, stay safe, stay creative, and I'll catch you all in the next one.